Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Breadcrumbs Project. It is good to have everyone here, and we are doing this series in support of my book, Latin America. And the link can be found in the description below. And this is a fascinating uh, story that has unfolded. And, and I feel so unique in that I'm the only person that knows this story right now. And as the book gets out and as things get out, I hope uh, that this story starts to get into the mainstream media and then into the main press because this is a fascinating story. We have two things that we completely got wrong about the Romans. First of all, that they were some kind of warring, go around, beat them up, and conquer and take everything from everybody. And that just wasn't the case. That just wasn't the case. Last episode, we got a chance to dive into this map and some maps that take the history of Spain back from modern Spain back to medieval Spain. We have a clear medieval map. And then we get to Latin Spain. These maps that we're studying are completely and utterly um, not anywhere near correctly dated. And the one that is just absolutely screaming in 27 and is part of the world of a world atlas. Well, this world atlas is not the Spain of 1827 or anywhere near the 11th century or close to it. This map is ancient. How did it survive? How did it survive the years? The Romans used copper plating, copper plate etching to make their their maps and to reproduce stuff. They knew how to use acids on a copper plate and reproduce books, um, maps. They were a very literate society. They were a very literate society. If you go to the trash dumps of Egypt, you will find Roman writings from the Roman times. They had libraries, they had booksellers, they had map sellers, they had a thriving trade in publications. So, um, what happened to all that material? What happened to it? I can, from my studies and from what I've been able to see, it's clear that the Romans had some very high technology that the Dark Ages got rid of. The Dark Ages were truly a dark age for humanity. First of all, the Romans disappeared, disappeared, and then the there came civilizations from Asia and the Hungary area, and that's because they were being pushed out of Germany. So that's when the Suebos, the Goths, the Gothics, and all of those came to Spain to rule after the Romans had disappeared from the Iberian Peninsula. They literally disappeared. No remnants of the families, of just no sign of them. But after they disappeared, in came the Germanic tribes to attempt to manage Spain. And there's a lot of history that says that the Romans were paying the the Germanic tribes to attempt to manage Spain now that they were gone. because I guess the Spanish were incapable of managing themselves. I don't know. And then after that came the Dark Ages, Medieval Age, Renaissance, and then Industrial Age. So Spain had gone through a lot of changes when the Romans disappeared. But the biggest thing is that people came in and destroyed all of the literature that they get their hands on. Anything. What survived were copper plates, hidden in libraries, hidden in uh, an elite person's house, not knowing what they had, or hidden on purpose to reproduce later. I don't know. I do not know. But I can tell you that this map is not from 1827 because in the 19th century, we already knew that Finisterre was down here. We had A Coruña. But here we have a map that is completely Italian, not French. It should be French or it should be Spanish, but it's completely Italian. Oceanus Atlanticus, Cantabrium Mare. All right. And that mare is going to be very important later on today as things um, play out. So here in France, it's not Galicia, and it's not Gauls, it's Gaia. That's what the French called, I mean, the Latins called France, Gaia. Because if you look up Galicia in a translator, it says French, France. That's not the case at all. Again, another incorrect item in the record. France was Gallia. Give you the full screen on that. Right up here. You have Tolosa, Gocosa, I believe that's the modern town, Acqui Aguste. But all of this is Latin, a very dead language by the 1800s. Only people that were using Latin were the priests, the Roman Catholic priests, uh, medicine, and naming stuff in science. And that's it. So here we have a map that says Artibrum Promontorio. And I've already, well, you know what? We can do some images. We're going to translate some images. This is a Chinese saying, saying a happy home is a happy life, basically. And we'll take a picture. Oops, that's not going to get everything I need. So let's go from up here. Nope. Let's do a new one. I'll just start up here. No, it's not working for me. I have to go even higher. All right, so we're going to take this, we're going to copy it, and we're going to go to Google Translate. We're going to do images, detect language, into English, paste from clipboard. All right, Latin, formerly Celtic. The bottom part um, is easily translate Latin. So one of the things that we do is take some of these words and break them down. So we're going to do text and Latin. Crimean Tartar Latin. I've been hearing something about Crimea Tartar, and now they speak Latin. Oh, I've got to investigate that, people. So a lot of you been no, yeah. I guess if you're watching this show, you're in the community of people that have been hearing about Tartary and the Tartars, and doing a lot of YouTube videos out there, or seeing a lot of YouTube videos out there with the Tartars, and listening to some news about the Ukrainian war. There are Crimean Tartars out there, so that just tells you, okay, Tartar is real. But that there's a Latin version, I'm going to have to do some research on that, folks. That is super interesting. All right. So, like Finisterre, you can see if these are two words. I want that in English. Okay. Narrow. Narrow. And now let's see if we can do BRU. Bruh. Narrow fog. And there you go. Narrow fog, which is a good way to describe Finisterre. So let's go ahead and break down promo, promote, Ontorio. Ontorio. Ontario. Promote Ontario. Huh. That's interesting. That is every. So narrow fog, promote, and let's see. Let's go over that map. So this is narrow fog, promote, Ontario. Previous Celtic. Previously Celtic. Very, very interesting. So there you are. These are Latin words. Some of them are combined words, combined of two Latin words to make a name. And Magnus Portus, we've seen the Mare. So this is Rome colonizing the Iberian Peninsula. And due to the ritual, we know that the locals here, the Celtic people, uh, integrated, I guess is the word, integrated with the new Roman presence because they were buying Roman seminware and using it in a ritual fashion, and then um, it basically became a Roman country, Hispania, and and I think they had a really good life here. I think the Western Romans, because by that time there was Eastern Rome and Western Rome. I think the Western Romans were based in Spain, and life is really good in in the Iberian Peninsula. I can tell you that. That's where I live right now. So they were taking advantage of the great weather and the good times and all that was available here. They didn't invade because I do not see any signs of of a of of a struggle in towns that have warring names. Okay, I just don't see that. I would see something more militaristic. And when it was the Roman Empire, they weren't for, they when they were the Roman Republic, although they did have legions. I don't think they were uh, a warring entity. They were all over Europe. They covered Europe. The Latins did, and they were very much based here in uh, in Galicia. And this is just if you have time and you have interest, these are just amazing maps to study versus the current times. And look at the level of detail of the mountains and the cartography, and it has nothing to do with with the um, with the medieval maps. We saw that yesterday, and may look at one today. Something that gives me great great pride as a Basque person is here are Vascones, the Basque, Vascos, Vascones, and they become part of New Spain. But we'll get to that in a minute. So this is way back when the Romans were colonizing the Iberian Peninsula, and I found a map that is even older from the same collection. And if you remember this one, again, the great level of detail on the coastline is beyond impressive. So much so that I can see in my little town here that Muxia was an island. Muxia was an island. And that's very interesting to me. Magnus Portus, Grandi Medium is what we're going to focus in on right now. Grand vision, something grand to see, something grand to look at, which is all of these pottery shards and uh, glass shards that represent the bowls, the inverted bowls that covered this entire area of the thousands and thousands of dead that came to Moraime and committed suicide because they were no longer useful to the villages, and let the family members take their ashes in an urn to to the sacred location, which is represented by Gandhi Medium. Find a spot that's available, and then just put the 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 urn, the jar, the bowl face down into the ground, so that the ashes uh, can slowly go into the ground and become part and parcel with the gods. And then, of course, the soul stone would be placed on the beach, so it could be underwater and above water, as above, so below, in a way. So that's what was happening here. Now, the map I was showing you here has Grandi Medium, but nothing else is really named. And we have Brigandium. So this is a noted name that A Coruña acknowledges that that's a prior name of theirs. They say it's a Celtic name, but it's not. It's Latin. And we again have here. I'm gonna have to figure out what that is. Celticum. So this I have two maps that name the Celts in the region over here, and not in a ugly or demeaning way or a fighting way, but a to kind of keep an eye on and I guess respect is the word I'm saying. Respect. So um, this is a brigadier general's law is here established where A Coruña is. They haven't even called it Magnus Portus yet. So this is one of the first maps I am guessing that came out to to um to start to colonize, invade maybe, but I think colonize is a better word for what the Romans did. And all of these names again are Latin. All of this is Latin. It's not Spanish. It's Latin, and came from old copper plates that were found and republished, which is pretty exciting. Which is absolutely very exciting. So now we have Magnus Portus Corunium, a new crown, and let's put that into the translator. Let's see. Ontario, that's interesting. Go. Goron is crown. You. Law. Crown law. And brigand is brigadier general. So crown law is established in A Coruña. Latin. It's a Latin name. It's Latin based, and it is um, the establishment of this area, and they do very well. It grows. This is a medieval map, clearly, and it has Finisterre and it has La Corogne, and this is a Spanish, I mean a French atlas, Mer Océan, Mer de Biscaye, that's the Basque Bay, Océan Occidental or Mer Atlantique. This is fully a French map. This is said to be a French map. But if you look at all the ways, all the writing, how everything is done, it in no way represents the naming conventions of and the way they did the writing of the map. So these are just two different things, two completely different things. This is appropriation, what was done here. So yeah, this and Lusitania, clearly Latin, nothing to do with 1827. So the Latins grow and become very comfortable in Hispania, and it's broken down into several regions. This says 1810. I still I'm not buying it. 1810, no, can't be, because by the 1600s, we already have Coruña with the ñ, the beginning of the ñ sound. Okay, so this is Corunna, which you guys have seen is New Crown, and Muxia is Magia, magic. So the grandi medium, the grand vision, the power of this place as a place of burial of I think there was magic here. I think there was something very powerful and spiritual here, and that's why it was called magia. And we have Nuestra Señora de la Borca, which is our um, Roman basilica, which is our sanctuary. So this was important to the Romans, very very important, and they really did take to Muxia, so much so that they put a Roman um, basilica here, ginormous. Local legend says it's from the 1700s. There's no way because it uses cement, and there's just no footprint here that has what would take to construct a basilica of that size. You need tons of iron. You would need several blacksmiths. We don't have that history here. You would need a lot of rock uh, carvers and people to carve the stone into the basilica, and that would take a giant population, and we just don't have any footprint of that here in Muxia. Definitely could be done in Latin Roman times, and I would even bet you a dollar to a biscuit that the um, that the basilica was prefabricated and brought here in barges and then built because it has that kind of a because this area right where we live here in Muxia is just very difficult terrain, very difficult to get to, and where the sanctuary is located. I'll show you here on the map, and there's a picture of it. And if you look at it with a good trained eye, you can see a Roman building, but it is Roman basilica. It's beautiful. That's on the inside. And yeah, right here on the coast. And there's just nowhere to put a port. These roads did not exist. There was just this little walking path that got there. Uh, and below that is pretty solid rock. So there is and rock slabs, stone slabs. So they could have been brought in that way by the Romans, but definitely not medieval times, not at all. And there's just nothing here that would be a great place for a port to be able to bring the stone to make this facility, which is big, very big. So we have mysteries here in our little town. Um, get some other pictures of it. Yeah, that's a sunset here. They're glorious. So great Roman presence here. A lot going on. And then while I'm doing all those studies, I run across this map, which I just took for granted. I was like, oh yeah, this is I guess when the Spaniards came over and started doing their thing, you know. And then I looked at the name of the map really closely, and I speak some Basque, okay? And Nova Hispania, Nova Galicia, that didn't ring a bell. That didn't get my attention, but the et did. Because if this is a Spanish map representing Spanish conquistadores, then it should say Nueva España y Nueva Galicia or Galicia. It doesn't. It has et. And by my knowing the Basque language, I know et or eta is and this that et hit me, and I still remember the sensation. It hit me like a hammer, like boom, et. What language is that? Looked it up. Latin, Nova, that's Latin. And then I looked at this map really closely, really closely. And two things popped out as I was making my studies. It didn't all happen one day. This happened over a series of about a week studying this map because you have to uh, take the mask off, peel back what you see, and really look at it with fresh eyes. So the first thing that struck me was, yeah, it's New Spain and New Galicia. I understand that Galicia is a small region of Spain. Shouldn't be that important. It is, but it shouldn't be that important, but it is. So to give you guys an idea, this right here, we're we we're adjacent to Portugal, and it's basically this northwestern region here is Galicia, and you see it here, Galicia with two L's, and then France is Galia. So Spain and Galicia, two different regions. And then what hit me was it has a Compostela, not Santiago de Compostela, but just Compostela. And that's a camp of stars if you want to do the translator. Let me get that back. I have the translator on another tab right around here. Compo compose. I think that's stars. Star. Compose star. Compose star. I always, I always did the. I haven't focused on that city at all, uh, but I always thought it meant camp of stars. But Gompo is compose. Interesting. So all of this is either in the native Nahal, the city, the towns are either in the native Nahal language, which is I think it's a pre-Inca language, by the way, Nahal, which is what they spoke in Mexico at the time that the Latins came over. Okay, so this is we've already deciphered this name, which is compose star and mare, Champalicum mare. Mare, as you know from the previous map, is sea. It has a nice little island. And here you have Nova Galicia. All right, New Galicia in in Latin. And then here is Nova Hispania. And to my eye, Galicia is bigger than Nova España, but here it is, Mexico. Mexico. So we know we're in Mexico. We know that all of this is either Latin or the local Nahal language. So that is interesting and powerful. But what hits you like a 10-pound ball is this is the west side of Mexico. The the Latins are colonizing this on the Pacific Ocean side of Mexico, not on the Gulf of Mexico side of Mexico. You understand what I'm saying? This is the Gulf side of Mexico. I mean, the Pacific Ocean side of Mexico, and not the Gulf side. That's mind blowing. So either there was already a Panama Canal tunnel, Panama Canal, not tunnel, Panama Canal, or the Latins knew how to navigate the Straits of Magellan. These are the kind of boats they used. Okay. So the Romans, the Latins, were much more modern than they let on. And whoever cleaned up behind them, they never let us know that the Romans had these kind of ships. What we see are the triremes with one flag. No, the Latins had multiple mast, multiple sail ships. They escaped from Iberia when the Latin League, that Roman Empire was collapsing, and they hid themselves away on the far side of Mexico so that they could not be found by anybody in Europe. They completely disappeared from Europe and hid themselves on the far side of Mexico. And this is where we will pick up tomorrow. I'm trying to keep these to half-hour shows, and we're at 40 minutes. But yeah, Nova España et Nova Galicia in Mexico, the far side, the Pacific side. Latin America. The Latins were the ones that conquered the Americas, and it starts here. Literally, they go north. And we know that because you see the lion and the sword, they are heading north. That's where he's pointing to. Again, I don't think they did it by the sword. You just have way too many Nahal villages and Roman villages coexisting. Again, I think they bring such intelligence and technology that the locals accept them and want to better themselves as the Romans were. What's interesting is we're going to take pictures of this and translate it so you can see what it means. New. Copy that. Bring translator up. And do an image. So there were people here outside of their village, not say their village, yeah, outside of the villages in the unconquered area, uncolonized area of Mexico, and these are called the Guachuchules, are people who walk naked, live in the forest, and are only interested in hunting. So they literally had hunter gatherers there. Okay, this Latin, detected Latin, and showing in English. And this is going to be interesting for you guys. And where are you? Translate. Paste from clipboard. Unknown land and distant mountains in Latin. Again, it detected Latin and was able to put it out there perfectly. So, guys, the Latins got here, unknown lands, naked hunters, and then you have these amazing features. This amazing sea with all of these amazing islands. Doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, this was a very populated area, and Latin America. There's a lot more to do and a lot more to talk about, but this is where it starts. The Latin people were living a very good life in in the Iberian Peninsula when when they were starting to see the collapse of Rome and the collapse of the Italian, not the Italian, the Latin um, Republic, possibly when it became an empire. I think that's what these guys did. They just escaped to a place that the Eastern Empire could never know about, but the Western Empire learned about this, and then they burned all the information to the Jesuits, to different groups, burned everything, and took Europe back to the Dark Ages or into the Dark Ages so that there would be no record of where the Latins had escaped to. It's right here. All right, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. It's a unique situation and something that has blown me away, and I hope it blows you away too in the same manner because this is just shocking, absolutely shocking. Still, to this day for me, it is very shocking. So thanks so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 o'clock Eastern in the morning, and uh, and yeah, we'll pick this up and go a little further with it. All right, y'all. Thanks, and see you tomorrow.